Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is a guitarist and composer who has been a contributor to the creative music scene in Canada since 2003. As a singer-songwriter, he has emerged as a member of the Toronto Chamber jazz outfit, Hobson's Choice. In 2018, he began performing in his own solo projects as a songwriter and has since put out 3 releases: Unconfined Invisible, Two Tomorrows, and Our Canopy, an EP co-released with Rebecca Hennessy. So, let's spill the tea with Harley Card. Welcome, Harley.
Thanks, David.
Well, thanks for joining us. And Harley, I know that you come from a bit of a musical family. Tell us about your brother who's a guitarist, your father's musical, and where you got your influence from.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my dad is a musician. He was a drummer and a singer in bands when he was young. And then eventually didn't go into music as a career, but always kept it going. And his side of the family, his brothers, all sang folk music together. And that was kind of a feature of the Card family gatherings all through my childhood. So the drums were always around, and that kind of became, ever since I was a little kid, I was always banging away on my dad's old Ludwigs. So, and I've still got those drums. He eventually gave them to me. And yeah, my brother also played guitar and took lessons as a pre-teenager. And I was actually more into visual art and didn't really consider myself a musician or anything like that. But always music was always around, and there were always instruments in the house. So it was pretty easy to get into it as soon as I got more interested. And just in general, my mom and dad were always just really avid music fans, and there was just always records on in the home. So a deep appreciation for music was always fostered for sure.
Now, your mom and dad's music, as with many kids that grow up in musical families, influences their lives. I don't imagine your dad was a punk rock guy, but certainly the musical influences from him filtered down into your music. Did you start off playing the stuff that your dad played and then eventually moved into your own genre?
Yeah, it's funny. Well, one band that has been sort of present in my musical psyche all my life has been the Police. And so that was a band that, yeah, my mom and dad and their friends were into and kind of discovered as they were just emerging and becoming, such a, like big mega stars. And yeah, as a little kid, I sang do 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 da 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 with my dad. And then like later on when I got into punk rock, I was like, oh, these guys in the new wave in the UK, and like this is all where punk rock came from. I get it. And then later on when I got into reggae and like learning jazz harmony on guitar, like Andy Summers, and like that crew was great for all of those things. And so I kind of kept coming back to it. And then certainly years later, when I got a little more involved with just sort of the literary side of lyric writing and stuff, Sting has always been an influence because, he was an English teacher before he was a musician or concurrent to his music starting. So that's one example. But yeah, like Hendrix and Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell is a very, very big influence for me and my family in general. So yeah, those are roots that like, maybe I, didn't discover right away, but they were all along, they were kind of, formative for sure.
So take me through the history there, Harley. You mentioned that you started off listening to the music your mom and dad did, which the Police, huge influential band, came out with that very interesting. It was a reggae beat that they were playing their music to, which had not been introduced into the pop, rock world. So you started off listening to that music, and then you mentioned a number of genres as you went through reggae, jazz. Take us through the history, your journey through the history of music to where you believe, what genre do you believe you're in today?
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, there are artists like The Police or Steely Dan or Joni Mitchell are certainly good examples of popular music that I listened to as a kid before really getting exposed to jazz music. And I had a great teacher. Like when I mentioned starting on the drums and playing in bands, and then, but we were always writing songs, and guitar was always my tool for that. Um, and so when I did in high school, I studied with a great teacher named Dave Milliken in Ottawa, and Dave taught me everything I knew at that point about reading music and harmony, and he helped me decide that I wanted to continue in music and go to get a post-secondary education uh, in guitar and music. So I did that. I went to Mohawk College for applied music, and then eventually went to U of T for jazz performance. So during that period of my life, like my early 20s, I really fell in love with jazz music and the whole tradition, and started working in the field as a jazz musician, as a guitarist. And so yeah, I'm very much still within. I'm playing a standards gig later today. So very much in the jazz genre. My writing, I feel, is my instrumental writing for my own groups has always been not only grounded in that, but all the aforementioned influences and just music in general with a capital M. So yeah, I guess for the elevator pitch would be that like I'm a jazz musician with a lot of folk influence, or like folk and pop and rock influence. But yeah, I really see all of my music as one continuing thing, and I don't really separate it much in my mind. I know that the marketplace demands that I do, but really it's all just music to me, and all my listening on a daily basis kind of reflects that. Like I listen to a really wide array of music.
What do you see a record label bringing to the table to benefit the artist? You mentioned that you had a record that went with Barnyard with Hobson. So when you saw that experience, or when you had that experience with the record label, what did you see them bring to the table that you didn't have as an independent artist?
Well, one big thing that happened was because that record, I guess, got a little more international exposure within creative and improvised music. Um, we got picked up by a distributor in Japan, and so now that record got re-released in Japan, and I've seen sort of the result of that a little bit, very peripherally. I've never been to Japan, but this distributor stocks our records in stores, and we're there, and um, it's still like I still see like SOCAN reports on this stuff, so I see that it's still happening and that people are listening to our music in Japan. So yeah, so it's things like that where I'm like I have no idea how to get my record, current record that I'm working on as an independent little Canadian release. I don't really have the means to get exposure like that, but certainly people who are in the record business and have labels that are doing legitimate distribution and publicity, and I could certainly spend more time talking to friends who do um, release albums on labels to learn more about it currently. Like it's something that I looked into a lot maybe 15 years ago and got a good sense of what was going on with the 360 deals, and labels being more involved but taking more uh you know taking more of a cut out of your merchandise and your performance royalties, or your performance fees rather. And that whole thing, I imagine it's completely different now, really, if we get under the hood with it, because yeah, it's a whole new era with streaming and everything, as you know.
Mhm. Well, let's
Okay.
get into one of the songs that Harley wrote. This song was released in August of 2022 as part of a 3-song EP written and recorded with longtime friend and collaborator Rebecca Hennessy. So let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Harley Card and his song, Our Canopy.
All that I could do is try to demonstrate I say a rosary, pace past the stones, sometimes whispering. Cut grass blows amongst the snowstorm beckoning. Could you recreate an instant? There's a chill in the air when the willow casts its shade. This is our canopy, and I yearn to move towards your song's embrace. Servings of solitude, hearing the Oriole find its place. Where is this pathway leading? Unveiling all of the time. Bountiful mystery mind. 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 Unveiling all of the time. Bountiful mystery mind.
That was Our Canopy by Harley Card. Harley, what was going through your head? What was the thought process when you wrote this song along with your longtime friend and collaborator, Rebecca Hennessy?
So it was the third song that we wrote. We had both been spending time walking around Prospect Cemetery in Toronto, and we decided that, I don't know if we decided, but it sort of came to be that like these other songs were set in that cemetery. So Bottom of the Hill is a reference to the big hill that happens when you start going south through the cemetery. And then Our Canopy was a reference to some of the trees in the cemetery. So it was, yeah, it was a setting for the tunes, and Our Canopy specifically, I guess it's a little bit of like the song is a reflection on your relationship with your departed loved ones and the dearly departed, and just, I find whenever I'm in a cemetery, there's, that will come to mind as just, sort of bigger thoughts about life and mortality and spirituality. So I guess that's sort of the subject matter. That is definitely part of the song Our Canopy, and just also a reflection on, like, it's a bit of a mysterious lyric, and I feel that it's representative of these sort of mysterious elements of life, and those questions that we can't really expect to ever have answers to, but we can think about, and we can find meaning by pondering these things. So I guess that's sort of the general idea of the song and the tone of it and everything.
And how do people find out more about you and your music, gigs, tours, concerts? What's going on? What's coming up from Harley Card? What's the website, streaming services, and social handles?
Yeah, so my website is harleycard.ca. You can find my music on Bandcamp. You can find some of it on Spotify and the other streamers. I'm on Instagram, but I keep my website up to date with gigs and certainly bigger events like record releases and things are always on my homepage. And so that's a good place to check in.
We've been in conversation with Harley Card. Harley, thanks for being with us.
Thanks a lot, David. Pleasure.